I have to tell you this, not just the first Monday night, but this Monday night, the first Monday night of a brand new year, with the most significant step we can take in our lives. What a wonderful topic tonight.
Yes.
If we just take this step, what will open up is just, I can't describe it. I do my best to hang on to those memories of the day that I first walked in, and how broken I was, and how hurt I was. And I hope that I always have that memory. For if I don't, you guys will remind me. If I don't, a conversation with these people or you folks will remind me that there's only 8 inches between the sidewalk and the gutter. Tonight we'll begin our first month of step studies, and that is, of course, the joy of step 1. For those of you new, or for those of you who haven't put it to memory, step 1, we admitted we were powerless over our addiction and compulsive behavior, that our lives had become unmanageable.
For I know that nothing good lives in me, that is, in my sinful nature, for I have the desire to do what is good, but I cannot carry it out. Romans 7:18.
We often hear about shepherds and their flocks, and we hear about carrying a crook and a staff. And while I can't confirm it, the story goes that a shepherd, when a lamb will wander, will go to into the darkness and seek it out, and the others would stay. And when found, would carry it back. And if on the next night the same lamb would turn around and wander, the shepherd would leave the flock and seek it out. And I have to tell you, I had that revolving door myself. But the story goes that when a lamb will wander too often, that the shepherd would take the staff and fracture the leg of the lamb, and then pick it up, splint it, wrap it, and bring it back to the flock. If you hang around these rooms long enough, you will find us walking in broken, limping, hurting, bruised, and damaged. And that's the way our shepherd wants us. Because until we are not living for ourselves anymore, but find something bigger than us to live for, our lives can't mean anything. Now, the first question we wanted to talk about was my favorite word. It was denial. I had a 3-bedroom, 2-bath on the river, denial. It was great, had a great view. Crocodiles. But if you asked me, I didn't have a drinking problem. I didn't get caught stealing the car while I was inebriated, so it wasn't a problem. I came out of blackout. I was sharing a story with a friend tonight. I came out of blackout 3 days later. I had gone through filling out an application, going through an interview, going through an orientation to come out of my blackout on the production line of Texas Instrument Calculator. But I didn't have a problem. My wife had the problem. She would get PO'd every time I would get drunk and pass out on the sofa. Don't know why. I was a quiet drunk most of the time. But I camped out on denial. The first 40 years of my life was nothing but denial. I denied the way I was raised. I denied the addiction that I fell into. I denied the abuse that was given to me and I gave to others.
But denial, I had a front row seat there too. I think I took home every trophy for it. My denial was coupled with a great deal of pride. As long as I could keep my job, as long as I could manipulate my family into allowing me to continue down the path that I was on, as long as I wasn't buying a case of vodka, but only 2 or 3 handles at a time, then I didn't have a problem. I made these rules, these crazy rules, for what a problem looked like. And I was really good at telling people to look somewhere else. So if they started to shine the spotlight on me, I was in such denial of what my problem was, I would often say, well, I'm not as bad as that person over there. And the thing was that put me in a position of being very prideful and also very self-righteous. And step 1 requires you to put that aside. And when I first walked in here was literally the first time that I stepped out of denying that I had a problem. Because I literally had to come in here and they're like, hey, we've got all these classes. So, these look good to you? And I'm like, I can't stop drinking. So, I'm just bawling my eyes out. And it was literally the first time that I admitted to somebody else that I've got a problem. And no matter how many times I've tried on my own to fix it, set new rules for myself that maybe I would buy only 1 handle at a time, but it didn't work. I'd spiraled out of control, and I couldn't do it for myself anymore. So denial for me was where I lived for 41 years. And if I'm not careful, denial is very comfortable to me. And so that's why I need every single one of you all, because it helps me to say to you, hey, I'm Heather, and I'm an alcoholic, because saying that to you means that I'm doing the opposite of what I used to do. And so it doesn't mean that I'm not a Christ follower, and it doesn't mean that I'm not a new creation. I'm all of those things. But what it does is it gives me the opportunity to give you permission to hold me accountable. So, that's right.
I think that denial and honesty are the 2 most powerful things in addiction and recovery. Denial is the thing that kept me in it. As long as I could keep telling lies, I could keep being sick. And when I started to be honest is when I started to find freedom. And I find now that I just kind of try to be honest about who I am with everybody. I tell people about my past, and I don't really worry about what they think about it. And I find that it is a helpful tool for me because it weeds out anybody that would waste my time anyways. And then the people that I'm honest with that have an appreciation for it are generally people that are meant to be in my life and that enrich it. And so I just find that the more honest you are, the more that you grow and the more that God rewards you for your courage to be honest, because that's what it takes is courage. It's very scary to tell the truth sometimes, and I think that it's beautiful when people do things that scare the heck out of them. So, yeah.
I think with denial, it's kind of fun because once you get past the denial stage and being able to tell someone what you've bottled up, what you've hidden, I mean, as soon as you get the words out, the guilt and shame just roll. And it feels so good.
Amen.
It does.
Amen.
And with that comes kind of a point to where we've stayed quiet for so long that just at work, I mean, I tell people at work, customers, I tell everybody that I can, I was a horrible person. You would not believe the jacked up mess I was. It's ridiculous. $1,500 a day drug habit. Can you believe it? You're like, look, man, I just want to buy my stuff and go. But there's a fun part with the denial that once you do get it out, there is a lot of freedom. And I stayed quiet so long, now nobody will shut me up. And I think that ticks. Absolutely. My wife is right here. But it's freeing. I had a really hard time with a lot of things in my past, and it took a whole team of psychologists to get it out. But once I did, it is so freeing. I absolutely ask every one of you, don't stay quiet. Don't let Satan keep you quiet, because he will.
Amen.
He's really good at it.
Absolutely.
Don't stay quiet. Talk about the things that are bothering you. Find somebody that you love, someone you can talk to. Find a sponsor. If you can't find one of them, come to one of us. We'll talk to you. But let it go. We were never meant to carry it as long as we have been.
That's right.
I'm ready to start step one myself all over again. So, and I think we all said it, the denial that we live in for so long, the pinned up, the lies upon lies, the manipulation upon manipulation, but the gift when we finally give it up, the gift when we finally realize that we're unable to carry this burden, the freeness. I mean, what did taking the first step do to put you on a righteous and right path? I think we've all immediately spoken freedom. We have chained ourselves up for so long. We have bound ourselves with our words, and we can be freed with simple words. God help me.
Amen.
One of the things that I had such difficulty with on step one is that once I took it, I thought everything was going to be fixed. I was a new person. You would like me now. I wasn't going to take from you. I wasn't going to steal from you. I had no means or desire to. Honest. And everybody who knew me went, mm-hmm. Sure. But it taught me the other side of it, because for so many years I was the disappointment. I was the one that you tiptoed around. I was the one that we didn't speak about that problem. It taught me humility. I was so self-centered and so self-righteous and so self-serving that I had no idea what being humble meant. It had never crossed my mind. And upon taking my first step, God love it, this man was just horrific. He was mean, he was ugly, he was cockeyed, and he's still my sponsor. And I love him. And he was very direct to me, and he says, you are here to get help, to get saved, and to find the cure. And that's all you're capable of doing right now. is to just be here. And that's all I was capable of doing. I had to humble myself to the point that I wasn't hip, slick, cool, and in charge, that I had to be still, quiet, and listen. And that was probably the first painful and difficult thing I had to do.
I think for me with step one, I had been in denial for so long. A lot of it had to do with the things that I thought that I was in control of. I thought I was in control of a lot of things, and I still can revert back to that. I thought I was in control of other people. I thought I was in control of my career. I thought I was in control of myself, of my emotions. But really what was happening was I was burying myself deeper and deeper and deeper. And I think with step one, when I finally realized that no matter how many times I had promised and tried, honestly, to quit drinking, I couldn't. And it got to the point where even when I would make the promises, I was just doing it not because I actually had any confidence in myself. I just thought, well, I just want you to go away. So I'm going to say whatever I need to say so you'll leave me alone. When I finally came to the place where I was like, there's nobody else to lie to. Everybody's on to me. There wasn't a single person left. I had to get real, and that was very scary. I'm a crier. I think everyone who knows me knows that. Poor Christy walked in and she's like, "Why are you crying?" I guess it was like 5 o'clock today, and I was like, "'Cause it's Monday." And the thing is, I hadn't felt for so long. I mean, truly felt emotions that everything I feel now is so surface, and I'm okay with that now. I'm actually really proud of myself that I let myself feel, because there was a time when I didn't. I would just say, no tears, no anger, no response, just get to 6 o'clock when you can drink yourself to bed. And then tomorrow get up and do it all. And so I just bottled and bottled and bottled. And so I'm really grateful that step one, like really seriously, it's more the verse that goes with it, that I tried and I tried to do what was right, but I just couldn't. And when I gave it over to the Lord, he literally was like, finally, like, I just needed you to ask. He knew I couldn't do it. I set myself up as God. I'm not God. And it was so beautiful to hand that back to him and be like, okay, if you are who you say you are, even with this step, you got to help me, because I don't want to let go. I don't want to trust you can do this. So step one was actually a trust step for me. It was like those trust falls where you're just praying that somebody's back there to catch you. And what's beautiful is I still need to work that step just about every single day. I don't really think there's a day that goes by that I don't need to work it. Now, whether I do or not, that's what my accountability people are for. But literally, if I will just fall into him, he's got it. And realizing that is what helped me to get on with getting sober.
So I think that step one is the foundation. It's where you start, and it's very I think frightening for some people in the beginning to take that first step, but when you admit that there's an issue, that's just the beginning. So you begin to realize that you have work to do, that you can change your situation. And when you're in denial, the blinders are on and you can't see what's in front of you. It's obvious to everybody else. So, it's just important to be honest with yourself and it makes all the difference, I think.
I think step one really started for me. My wife and I had the conversation. I'm heading off to rehab, and I remember even telling her, I'm on too much. There's no way rehab's going to help. And it's partly true, because without God, it's not going to. I mean, you gotta know that you are not God. I remember sitting at rehab week 2, and that's about when the change started happening. And I remember talking to one of my many psychologists who told me, Adam, what do you think about your future? What's going on with your future? I was like, well, I don't know. I'm sitting in rehab in California, so obviously I'm really bad at this decision-making skills. But he said, well, let me tell you about Jesus. I was like, yeah, I've heard this one. But I had not heard not the right way anyway. It wasn't until then where I was like, all right, I did. I was really bad for a long time. And it wasn't until I simply sat down and said, it's yours, God, I can't do it. And until you make that revelation, I mean, that's when he just starts pouring onto you and loving on you. And he'll show out and show off if you let him. I promise you.
That's right.
But with step one, obviously the first step, getting it out, talking about it, I'm powerless over my addiction. I remember thinking, when I got back into addiction, because I was a drug addict for a long time, got clean, had no idea that I had clean time. I just thought I was super depressed for about 2 years. But I went through everything, and then I remember talking to a guy at work, and he gave me something for the pain in my leg. And I remember thinking to myself, man, you were on $1,500 a day. You can handle one. You can't, by the way. It's a lie from the pits of hell. You cannot. So don't let Satan get in your ear, because that one led to a million. And I mean, I think I can pretty much speak for everybody that's sitting on this stage anyway. I know I can speak for myself. I shouldn't be here. There's many times that my denial and my inability to talk about God and to tell everyone how jacked up I was out of fear of how they would look at me. And it was mind-boggling even to me to think, why can you not just talk about this? You can handle about anything. Well, I couldn't. And it wasn't until I laid it down at Jesus' feet and said, fix me.
You know, we talk about clean time and we talk about turning everything over, and we talk about the joy of the transparency and the openness and the ability to shout out, I was and I am now, and the change that Jesus made in all of us. But it wasn't just clear cut. I can tell you when I had my last drink. I can tell you what my prayer of hope was and the gift that God gave me in His saving me. But I can also tell you that after a little bit of time, I found myself resenting everything and everybody that had been in my life. And that became it was described to me once, we plant this resentment, we fertilize it, we water it, we cultivate it, just so we have it when we need it. And I had so much of that. I was okay to say, I'm an addict, I'm an alcoholic, now I'm good. But I got a problem with you. And if you don't change, you're going to hell. And you did me wrong, so I'm going to pray against you. And I needed a jerk on my chain, and praise God that I had some accountability people and a sponsor that turned around and said, "You are really jacking it up." But I did hold on to those things. We come to such a dark place, and my God's Son is the light in the darkness, and I am so grateful for that he let me out of my tomb, but I didn't give it all to him. And it took work and time and counsel. It is not a go-fast program that we have here. It is a lifelong program that we have here. And today is an opportunity to take that first step. And for God's sake, don't do what I did for 5 years and hang on to every resentful, angry, bitter, venomous point before letting it go and letting God have it. Resentment was a big part of my recovery. It truly was, and it was a big part of my step one. And I genuinely couldn't turn around and honestly tell you I took step two until I let go of those resentments.
Well, to just kind of tack on to that, you sounds like you all had Festivus for the rest of us, where you aired your grievances. But, you know, just tacking on to that, honestly, part of what kept me sick was I kept a log in my head of reasons why I drank. And I think that you hit on something really important, because we are really, really good as addicts for justifying why we continue to use whatever our choice is, whether it's why we continue to gamble, or why we continue to look at pornography, or why we continue to use drugs or drink or try to find love where we shouldn't. We try to justify that, and I think that part of why I stayed sick for so long was because I wasn't willing, like you said, resentments, to let go of things that had happened to me. And if somebody got on my case for why I drank, then in my head I had a billion reasons that maybe they didn't know about. But I'd love to tell them if they had time, so they'd feel sorry for me and get off my back, right? But the thing is that everybody, we all have things that have happened to us. But what's so beautiful about that is when I gave everything over and I said, God, I can't do this anymore, and began to get real about things that had happened to me and get out of the woe is me, because I was also really good at that. God was so faithful to say, okay, so the enemy would love to shame you for XYZ, things that have happened to you. What if instead, and I learned this as I went over the year of going through my steps, but the enemy would come after me about stuff, and I'd go to my classes, and God would be like, but what if instead you started to tell people about some of the stuff that's happened to you? Because if you do that, just like I've caught you when you fell before, if you'll start telling people some of the things that have happened to you, I'm going to turn that around and I'm going to use it for good. And there has not been a sickness, a thing that's happened to me, a sin maybe that was done against me or that I did, that I can honestly say that God has not brought somebody in my presence that I haven't been able to say, you know what? I've been there. And I think that's one of the things I love most about serving on the prayer team on Monday nights is it is such an honor, because literally folks will come in and there will be people who will be like, I've never told this to anybody before. And there is not a thing anybody in here could tell me that will make my jaw drop. And I think that's amazing, because everything that either I did or was done to me, I am now able to share hope with people. How beautiful. So just taking that one little step, just saying, I can't do this anymore, you actually are going to open yourself up to the opportunity to give so many testimonies about the goodness of the Lord and all the things that you've been too afraid to share. Let me tell you, He is going to use it, and He's going to bring more people home. And we're going to have so many seats full in here that we're going to be standing along the walls so that our newcomers can sit. So take that step. Just trust Him. Fall into His arms. He has you.
So for me, resentment is a luxury that I cannot afford.
That's good.
So I find that it's easy to forgive. It's easier than I used to think it was. I think we make it harder than it really is. But when you begin to realize how important it is to forgive for your own good, it it becomes very easy. I have a work environment where I have, like anybody else, the grouchy comments and the stresses, and it's fast-paced and high pressure, and it can be stressful. And I have a tendency to just keep going, and it's like we've all kind of, since me and some of my fellow 12-steppers have been working there, we've all kind of gelled together, and so some of those things are going away. And it's just like when you don't stay hung up on the yuck, it's catchy. Other people start to feel it too. And so I've seen a change in like my coworkers, and it's really nice that just being able to let go of little things and overlook little things, not always have like this victim mentality or the looking for something to be angry about, makes life so much easier. You can appreciate little things, and it just makes it flow. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I had a lot of resentment that I didn't even know I had until after I was able to come out with everything and talk about it and get it all out there. I remember one of my therapists told me that she said, "Why are you here?" I was like, "Well, drugs." And she goes, "No, why are you here?" She said, "You have a lot of anger issues." I was like, "Well, everything you're saying is making me mad, so that checks out." But I didn't start thinking about it. I was like, well, maybe there are more things. Maybe it's not just the one thing that I was hung up on. And then I realized that I was holding on to a lot of resentment that, listen, I'll have 3 years on the 27th of this month that it took me that long to just recently to tell my wife, like, there are things that if you had told me 3 years ago were going to happen.
Praise God.
Tears of joy, my friends.
Amen. Amen.
Monday night.
It is. It's Heather. That's what it is. No, there's a lot of things that I had to forgive and forget and lay down and let go of. And like Eric said a minute ago, it doesn't happen overnight. You've got to keep coming back. You've got to keep hanging out with us. Keep hanging out with the church. Keep hanging out with your small group, with your sponsor. Keep talking about the things, because as soon as you think you've got it, Satan's going to punch you in the face. And dude's got a sucker punch, because he knocked me out, and I can't stress enough I had a lot of resentment, and I thought that I was going to be fine, and it wasn't until that one stupid thing that I did that caused me to fall right back into it. And God got me clean, and this place keeps me there.
That's right. Amen.
Praise God. Praise God. Well, guys, as you can see, there's 4 of us up here, and we can talk for quite a while. And unfortunately, we have to wrap it up. But I will turn around and tell you that if you think you have done something that can't be forgiven, if you think that a man without sin walked this world and you are not worthy, if you think he has no way of relating to you, I would ask you to refer to, and I'm going to get this wrong or I'm going to get it real right. It's either Matthew 27 and Mark 15 or Mark 27 and Matthew 15. But on the 3rd hour that Christ was on the cross and the skies grew dark and the heavens turned their back on our Savior, his plea was, my God, why have you forsaken me? And I tell you right now, God did not forsake his son, and he will not forsake you.
Amen.
That's right.
I would ask that if you are ready to take that first step, that if you've had enough of being sick and tired of being sick and tired, if you're tired of living in darkness, we have the light.